Hi, Tanya. How are you?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm so excited to reconnect with you.
Me too. It's been a while. It's been a long
It
while.
has. I looked up the date of when we first met, and for those of you guys listening, I met Tanya through our friend Tammy from Holly Weird Paranormal, and we met at
Shout out.
an investigation. It was March or February 3rd of this year, so almost a year.
Yeah. That was the Huntington Park
Yeah.
house. The house is
Yeah,
creepy.
so we had our own little investigation in this house, and ever since I met you, I just had such a connection to you. I loved the way that you read energy, and you have such a positive and uplifting vibration that I have been looking forward to talking to you for a while.
Oh, thank you. Likewise. Likewise. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, I can't believe it's been a year.
yeah,
Okay.
crazy times. So I wanted to start off by having you share a little bit about your journey, where it first began, and when you first knew that you were a psychic medium.
Okay, I'm Tanya, and most people know me by Tanya Che, whether it's through my podcast Brujo 101 or just Instagram, social media stuff. So I'm a Santera, but I'm also a spiritualist, which means that I work with the five clairs. I'm clairvoyant, I'm clairaudient. I also can smell things, sense things, and I realized I had a gift. Well, I didn't realize I had a gift. My mother realized I had a gift pretty early on. I used to do this thing where we lived in like this really old house. And you know how before under the sink, well, even now, there was like cupboards under the sink and people would put like their cleaning stuff in there. And I would go in there because I was little. And my mom says that I would have long conversations with whatever was under the sink. So they would, at that time, my mother wasn't a santera. So it was more like, oh, it's like her imaginary friend, you know. But I mean, my conversations would go on a long time where I fit in that. I can remember that I fit in the cupboard and I don't know what I saw in there. I wish I would remember, but I know that I would talk and talk and talk. And this is like 6, 7, 8 years old, probably. And then fast forward, my mother got into Santeria. My mother went to Catholic school all her life. Very early on, she had a problem with some of the things that they taught. And when she came to this country, my mother's Mexican, she was kind of looking for religion and didn't really fit in anywhere and went to a lady who threw her cards. And my mother's a hippie completely, like has pictures with her belly being painted while she was pregnant in Venice Beach, and and she was just always very open to spiritual things and got her cards thrown. Fast forward, gets inducted into Santeria, starts practicing spiritualism, and they told her that two of her three children would be psychic, of the children she already had. And then my mother started doing what's called working La Mesa Blanca, which is where we set up an altar that stays up all year long that represents our spirit guides. It's called a bóveda. And we would do what's called misas, which is really like a seance, but without holding hands. And at the time, she would have me focus on like connecting to my ancestors and connecting to my spirit guides. I mean, I would go to school, like high school, and come home and we would do this like on a Wednesday night. And very early on, my mom saw that I had something. And so she started to develop that. So it's really because of my mom. So I think by the time I was a junior in high school, I was practicing reading people's palms for fun. And it started off like a joke,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm going to read your palm. And then, I mean, what I would say would happen. And then, or I would connect with something for people. I have a good friend of mine who we're still friends. He went to high school with me, and he's like, "Don't you remember we were in PE class and you read my palm and you talked about my grandma?" And I'm like, "No."
Wow.
He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You described her house, you described her floor, you described everything about her." I was like, "Okay." So I think that from about 14, 15, I started to develop my gift. And then I went to school, I went to college, I got into finance, and I kind of put it on the back burner. I was busy like living my
Hmm.
life. At 21, I was inducted into Santeria as a child of Agayu, which is represented in nature like the volcano. So I had it's called doing Santo. I had a very large, a 7-day ceremony done to myself by my godparent. And I started learning about Santeria. It's also called La Regla Ocha. It's an Afro-Cuban religion. And honestly, it didn't click. Like I'm very, everybody laughs if you meet me because I'm very like, don't trust psychics, but I'm a psychic. But I feel like I just had a lot of skepticism, even though I knew there was something out there. I wasn't quite sure, but I knew what I saw were things that I felt. And it took me about 5 to 10 years to really connect with that. So I would say by the time I was in my I was already, during this whole time, I'm still doing things with my mom. She's like, my mom has always been pretty much my guide, and she's trying to like steer me spiritually. And I'm like pulling away, trying to go on vacation. But so I would say by the time I was like 30, I really came into my own. And I was able to, we call it educate the spirits that guide me so that the conversations that they were trying to have me have with people were not as abrasive and were also not as harmful to myself. I didn't feel so tired. I didn't feel very spent on energy because it's a process. And since then, I have been just focusing on developing my gift more and more. And then COVID happened. Right. So COVID happens and I'm running a mortgage company, but I'm already doing readings. Like I'm doing readings on the side and running a mortgage company. And I went to Cuba. I go to Cuba a lot to see my godparents, and there was a drumming party for my mother threw a party, and in our religious parties they dance for different orishas. And in this particular day, it was for Obatala, who's the owner of the white cloth, who happens to be my mother's titular saint. And what we believe in our belief system is there are people who are blessed with being able to incorporate Orisha, and Orisha will speak through them. So it's like possession, right? Basically. And I'll never forget, this person was like possessed by a Watala and came up to me and told me, "You look tired." And I was like, "No, I'm good." I was like, "I'm fine." And they're like, "How are you working, doing readings, coming to Cuba? You're not tired?" And I was like, "No." And he told me, "Well, I'm tired. So it's time for you to focus on this, on spiritualism." And I was like, wait. I have a really good job. I travel a lot. Like I have like a certain life. It sounds so ridiculous now. I even told this person, no, but I have like this lifestyle that I've gotten used to. And now that I think about it, I was like, oh, how pompous did I sound? Right. But I was just so scared, and yeah, that happened. COVID hit 2 months later, and the office that I work for completely went remote.
Mhm.
So I was in Orange County. I was commuting from Downey to Orange County. Completely went remote. And then I just had all this time to do spiritual things. So I did that for about a year. And then I went on vacation to Costa Rica. And I got stuck in the rainforest in the middle of the night and had to get rescued by the Red Cross. I laugh about it now, but it was
Yeah,
scary.
how did that happen?
I mean, really, nothing happens by accident. I went to Costa Rica. I had rented a car. I was driving to a place called Arenal to go visit the volcano, which is my titular saint is represented by that in nature. And on the way there, Costa Rica is horrible for directions. And the MapQuest wasn't working, and I took a wrong turn. I took the turn that was an old road, and and Costa Rica gets very dark because it's forest, jungle. And by the time um, it started raining and the car got stuck. And I quickly learned there's no like highway patrol in Costa Rica.
And you were by yourself?
I was with my mother, my poor mom. I had to call my husband to locate a satellite to find me, to get me out of the jungle with the Red Cross. But in that moment, I had this like epiphany because I was already like doing a lot of spiritual things, but I was really dividing my time and it was really taxing and draining. And I just had this like epiphany like, really? I'm stuck in the freaking forest. And what am I really doing with my time? Like the people who came to help me, to save me, were so nice to me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to quit my job completely. And I'm just going to do this full time. I'm just going to try to help people. I'm just going to try to be the change that I want to see in my religion, right? So I came back, I quit my job, and here we are.
What do you think it was about that situation that kind of gave you that download?
I think that it was like, I was like, it was crazy because Costa Rica doesn't have like people to go get you. Like, they don't have highway patrol. The police won't go help you. You have to call the Red Cross. And the Red Cross, you don't pay them. You know, they go and help you. And I was like, you know, it doesn't matter how much money I have on me. I can't get out of here. Like, I can't get out of here. Like, I'm stuck until the powers that be decide that somebody from the Red Cross is going to come get me. Like, it didn't matter. And I was like, I've been very blessed, and I feel like after 30, I don't know, I just felt like time was ticking faster. I have a son, right? My son's 16, and I was like, man, if I would just do things, work spiritualism, kind of do that, I would be home and see my son get home from school, which I had never been able to do that because I was always working. And I just had this like epiphany, like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how much money I brought to Costa Rica, I'm stuck here. Like, it doesn't matter. So I quit my job. I came back and quit my job. And that was like a whole other thing. And then I was already starting the podcast with Martin. We had already kind of recorded some episodes. And the funniest thing is, I think people come to you and they're messengers from spirit and they don't even realize it. And Martin, when I told him, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. I gave my 2-week notice. And he turned around and he told me, finally. And I said, what? And he's like, why aren't you just doing this full time? And I was like, because I have a mortgage. And he's like, but you're going to be fine. And I always tell him that I think that he was like this conduit at that moment because it gave me, a lot of people had told me that already, but there was this person who I hadn't known very long. And he just said it with such tenacity that I was like, oh, you're right. I am going to be okay. And I started to do readings full time and quickly learned that there is a lot of fakes, and then made it kind of like my unspoken mission to not let people get taken advantage of.
And that's
You
beautiful.
know,
I just hearing your journey, you and your mom, and how you went from basically just knowing what wasn't for you into kind of finding your own path. And then towards more recently, it was almost like you didn't have a choice. Like you were kind of just face to face with it, and you're like, let's just do it. And it's beautiful in the
yeah,
way
I
that it
think
blossoms.
yeah, I think that it's funny. Like it's totally uncomfortable. I read people, right, and the reading talks past, present, future. And sometimes I'll tell people, well, 3 things are going to happen unexpectedly, and they're not all going to be good. And people will be like, no, I don't want that. And I'll be like, but there's no avoiding it. So you just kind of have to ride the wave and trust, if you're doing your part, that energy is going to do the other part, right? There's a very bad, well, not now, the religion I practice, Santeria, is very trendy. Like there's 1,000 TikToks, and it's very commercialized now. It's kind of heartbreaking. We're a closed practice, so we don't discuss ceremonies. But what I will tell you is that every ceremony that we have is beautiful. And it's sad when people like bastardize it and put it on TikTok and things like that. And I used to argue with everybody. Like Martin would laugh at me. He'd be like, "Who are you arguing with today?" I've just learned that I'm not going to argue anymore. Instead, I'm going to show a different side of it, right? So that's what I try to do. I try to show a different side of it. I also try to be very empathetic, because I think for you to come to get a reading is scary. I think we all have things in our lives that we don't necessarily want to discuss or bring up again or relive. And I think the first thing, people always think I'm going to tell them they're going to die or someone's going to die. That's the last thing I'm going to tell you. That's not, most of the time, 99% of the time, when you come to me for a reading, it's because your energy, there's no coincidences. So your energy is trying to get something done. And it's trying to make me like a conduit to help you get that done. That's it. And, it's very rare that I will be like, somebody's going to pass away. Does it happen? It does happen, But then I also feel like being prepared for things is so much better than being not prepared.
How do you have those tough conversations with clients? Do you feel a responsibility to tell them exactly what you're reading in the moment? And is that something that can change? Is that something that's just based off of the energy you're picking up currently, or is it kind of malleable and flexible for the future?
So I'll give you an example. I have somebody who gets read with me. They're actually my godchild. So in our religion, once you start having me as your spiritual guide, as your spiritual, you know, teacher, I'm called a godparent. So I have somebody who I'm their godparent, and their mother has dementia. So when I met her, her mother, we've known each other a few years now. Her mother was okay. In the first reading I had with her, I said, "Look, this is talking about a disease that your mother has that's going to progress. So I don't know what it is, but I'm leaning towards, dementia." She's like, "That's what she has." Okay, perfect. I said, "Well, right now she's okay, so enjoy her. The time is going to come where she cannot live with you. She's going to need hospice. She's going to need all these things." And I tell you this not to scare you. I tell you this to prepare you. So one, if you were thinking you had, because we always think we have so much time, like your time is going to be limited. So take advantage of it. And two, financially, so you don't see yourself in a position of lacking, prepare. So I just saw her yesterday for a Friendsgiving, the person who I read, and her mother is deteriorating. And she was, crying, and we were talking, and we talk every day. And yesterday she told me, "I'm so thankful for you, because when I started going to you, I was so scared you were going to tell me that my mom was going to die." She's all, "But instead you told me your mom's going to live, but prepare yourself." She's like, she says that she left my house and got on the phone and started making arrangements for like buying a plot, life insurance, and she's like, and now that we're 4 years out now, she's like, "I'm not going to be financially in a bind." And that would have made things so much worse. So I feel like I try to treat people the way I wish people would treat me if I was in that position. That's one way. And then if somebody comes to me and they're doing something that's putting their life at risk, then I'm very quick to tell them that the outcome could be severe. There's a very thin line between mental health and magic and spiritualism. And you as a spiritualist, as a medium, as a reader, you have to be very cognizant, because you don't want a person who needs to be medicated to not be medicated because you're telling them that this candle is going to fix it. The candle's not going to fix mental health. It goes hand in hand. I'm going to help you spiritually, but maybe you do need to be on Prozac, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's a really tricky conversation because there are such needs, dire needs of people, to be given the help they need on so many different levels. It's such a spectrum, and I think that that's so important. How do you typically read people when you're having like a one-on-one session?
So my one-on-one sessions are, I read shells. They're called De Lagoon. We as Santeros get, well, I shouldn't say that. Some Santeros have the ability to be trained to read these shells, that it's a mathematical oracle. So it goes by numbers, and it's a whole thing. Like, you show up, I say a prayer, we mention all your ancestors, I mention all my ancestors, I read you, and then depending, you either come osorbo, which is the lack of something, or you come ire, which is the necessity of something. So I try to align you as to what you need. People sometimes come to me because they have romantic problems, as an example, and I will tell them in the reading, no, don't worry about that. That's going to figure itself out. Worry about your health. Worry about your job, whatever comes up, right? Worry about mending your relationship with your mother, because we carry a lot of generational curses that if we don't fix, we're going to repeat. And if we don't repeat, our offspring will repeat, or we'll bring it up in relationships. I get a lot of people who come to me and tell me, I can't meet anyone. I can't find a partner. Okay. Why can't you find a partner? Oh, no, well, I do you go out and look for a partner? No. If somebody asks you out, will you go? No. Okay. Do you try to online date? No. Well, it's not that you can't meet a partner. It's you don't want to meet a partner. So that's different. That's a different thing. And you have to break those things so that you're able to progress. So the reading will talk to you about what you need to do, and then I will give you recommendations of things to do, because nothing is mandatory. I will give you a recommendation. Maybe the recommendation will be to take what we call a baño, which is an after shower spiritual rinse that's made out of sacred herbs. Maybe the recommendation, I'll send you to church. Maybe it just really, or maybe you'll need a limpia.
Does it kind of come to you exactly what they need in that moment? Is it like a download or something that...
So I'm consistently being communicated with, but the numeration will guide me. And there's things that are born in the numeration. So maybe in this numeration, it says you need a limpia, a cleansing. So then I'll know you need a cleansing. And then what communicates and what guides me will tell me, okay, this person needs a cleansing with this, this, this. And then I'll ask in front of you, and then I'll give you these two things that decide, one's yes, one's no, in your own hands. And then I will tell you which one to give me depending on what falls. So really, your spirituality is in control the whole time. I'm just a conduit to get you there. And then if it's a limpia, right? Like that's just a spiritual cleanse. That's all that is.
Do you have a certain technique for it that you use for the Olympias in terms of materials, or any advice for someone who would want to just do it?
So I want to say this. Like my general rule of thumb with psychics in general is, if you go to see a psychic and they are living and their life is a mess, okay, you go and their house is a mess, you go, it's just a mess.
It's funny you say that, actually. It's really funny because I haven't been to that many psychics, but I went to one virtually about a year ago. Someone I know through someone, and it's exactly what you described. Like, she's a mess. Her life's all over. She canceled on me like multiple times. I ended up booking 2 sessions with her, and she took my money. So yeah, sorry. I just had to say that because it resonated.
I tell you, so if their life is a mess, like when you come get a reading with me, I have a part of my house that is just for readings. It is always tidy. It is always clean, because this is where I sit with spirit. Besides the fact that I ask for a deposit, I do not keep people's money. Money's an energy, and I have no right to it. Unless I do what you're paying me for, I have no right to it, right? So if you go to a psychic, they cancel on you repeatedly, they have an organization problem. And that's a problem. They keep your money. They have a financial problem. That's also a problem. Nothing that they say resonates, or it's very vague. If I were to go to a psychic and she told me that I had a dead grandmother. I'm over 30. I probably have a dead grandmother. That's not psychic. That's mathematics. But if she tells me that I had, as an example, a dead grandmother who liked to wear Chanel number 5 and walk around in a house robe, shit, that's my grandmother, right? So it has to resonate with you. It cannot be, I mean, I've seen psychics. I've experienced psychics here in Cuba, Spain, a lot of places. And I've seen when they cold read and they're fishing and it's painful, right? But when you come to a psychic, it's because you are holding on to hope. You want to get help from another dimension for this very human experience you're living. So it's very easy for us to say, well, you know what? Tim told me I had a grandfather who was dead. Well, he was right about that. Oh, he told me that sometimes I don't feel like doing things. Well, he was right about that too. But what human doesn't feel like doing things sometimes?
Yeah. And in doing that, it's like you're giving your power away to them, and then you're questioning, and then you're like, oh, wait, well, maybe that relates. What advice would you give to someone who doesn't know where to start? They want some answers. Would you say to practice more with meditation or to even look at Yelp reviews for someone that has good reviews? What advice would you give for someone who wants to
I'm
have a
gonna be
relationship?
I'm gonna be honest with you. We were just talking about this, right? I was telling you I don't recommend any psychics. I mean, of course, myself. I recommend myself, but it's hard, right? I feel like, let's say that you see me. I go on a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of like podcasts. I do a lot of paranormal stuff, and I have people who message me and will tell me, I don't know, something resonated with you. Okay, well, if you have that experience with me or with someone else, try it. Message them, get a reading from them. Be open to the experience. But if during that reading you're seeing these red flags, sometimes we have to go through a window when the door doesn't work. So sometimes we have to at least get our foot in and try it so that we can end up with the psychic that's going to help us, right? I'm a strange santera. I call myself a strange santera because I don't think that everybody needs to be in Santeria. I feel like a lot of people who practice my religion want to pigeonhole people into being in this religion, when in fact, I feel like this is not the religion for everyone. Me being a santera is completely separate from me doing psychic things because I sometimes think with a glass of water and a candle, you can resolve a lot of things. And you don't necessarily need to be inducted into my religion. My religion is beautiful, but it's a commitment for life. And because I respect and I love Orisha, I don't take that lightly. So I tell people, try the psychic thing, try spiritualism, read about it. You know, if you like to connect with spirit, meditate, calm your mind. You know, get a glass. So you can, a very simple thing you can do is you can get a glass that is like clear, like a, like a wine glass, and fill it up with cold tap water. It has to be tap water, and put a little tea light. Don't have the TV on, you by yourself, and just ask that your spirits who want to guide you help you and find light and help you find light. And be consistent in that asking, in that prayer, and see how your life changes. And see, you know what? Things are getting better. Because I feel like you have to connect to your own ancestors, your own guides, so they can open those doors for you. You're going to eventually need somebody to guide you, like a person like me, but that is something that is very easy for anyone to do,
I'm so glad you
you
said
know?
that because that's really important. I think to piggyback off of what I said previously about giving your power away, I think we do have so much power ourselves and just trusting our intuition in terms of what feels right and what doesn't, whether it's a psychic or an intuitive that we're working with. It just might not be the specific match for you, but just sitting with yourself, like you said, in that moment, you're kind of guided in some way, which is beautiful. And just hearing your journey about how it started with setting up your altars to build these relationships with your ancestors, it's such a basic, beautiful level of just connecting.
Yeah, and thank you. And I feel like there's so many things like on social media about like we're gonna do this cord cutting ceremony and we're gonna do this thing so your boyfriend comes back and we're no, no. We have to focus first on healing ourselves, on fixing ourselves. Can magic make all those things happen? Yes. Magic is extensive and capable of so many things. When people come to me, they're like, "Can you make my ex call me?" Sure, I could, but you're wanting me to manipulate someone's energy who doesn't want to be in your life. So you have to work on some things in your life. And if you still want me to make that person call you, yes. But let's try to work on you a little bit. And then we can cross that bridge. It's you have to have you have to have a very good moral compass. And I think that that's something that really lacks with a lot of psychics. I think that there is no moral compass. I think this is a cash business. When you come to get a reading, my readings are $65. They're very inexpensive. Because why? I do that on purpose. I want to be able to help people who need the help. And I don't want to make it unobtainable. And I see a lot of people who take advantage of people in very desperate situations. And I don't think those people are psychic because if they were, they would know the kind of karmic debt that they're creating.
I think even with TikTok and AI, it's become increasingly like tough, and it's reaching so many people in a beautiful way, but also it's detrimental too.
Today woke up to somebody like for the fourth time this year duplicating my TikTok account, stealing all my videos, messaging, and I don't even use TikTok that much to be honest with you. Messaging, I don't even have a lot of followers, so I don't understand. Like if it was my Instagram on the jewelry page, I'd understand because it's in the thousands, but like what are you doing stealing 500 people? But using all my videos, messaging people to send them money, and it's like you said, I feel like it's so good that now we're not demonized. But then you have the other side where it's like, oh, here we go, right? It's just a cash call for a lot of people. And I think that if you go to a psychic, to get back on topic, if you go to someone, they're not going to fix your life in the first reading, but you should feel better. And if you're doing the work by reading number 3 and you don't see a change, that's not the psychic for you.
Something else too that I want to highlight that you said, it's not just simply going to a psychic and asking for an answer. It seems like what you're really emphasizing here too is just the integration of a practice with going to a psychic or creating some type of solution. It's not just kind of like a one-sided thing to where you're telling them something, which you are, but it also seems like they have to be ready and willing to show up and do some work also. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. You got it. Because I have people come to me and they're not ready. Their spirit is ready, which is how they find me, but they themselves are going to be a blockage. So, what I tell people when I see that, I tell them, look, you need to do XYZ, but you're not ready. So, instead, I'm going to put something that you can do by yourself. Try this. And they'll be like, oh, but you don't want to like do a limpia, a cleansing on me. And I'm like, I could charge you for a cleansing, but you're not ready. So this is a test for you and me. If you do this very simple thing consistently, and we're going to stay in communication, and you see the change, it's going to make the limpia work because you're going to be invested. But if I see that I told you to do this very simple thing like the water with the candle and you fall off after day 1, we are just not ready. And it's not fair for me to put my energy and for you to put your money into something that you're really not ready for. And I don't want you to, I sleep very well at night. I have a very clear conscience. I don't want you to think that I took advantage of you. And then on the flip, I don't want you taking advantage of me.
Right.
So that's how I try to approach things now.
When it comes to mediumship and you're communicating with someone who's passed on to the other side, is there like an integration period of when someone passes, whether you can communicate with them yet or not? Does it take some time?
It does. So I don't like to communicate with spirits that have less than 90 days because In my belief system, if they die tragically, they're confused and the energy isn't clear. And if they die tragically because of an illness, they're trying to ascend. So I can't do anything to help them with that ascension for 90 days. So I tell people, I get a lot of people who tell me I want to communicate with my mother, my grandmother, and I'll ask and they'll tell me, oh, it's been 2 weeks. And I'm like, I can't do anything for that. But I feel like if you're grieving and if it's really affecting you, why don't you come get a reading for yourself? Let's focus on you. We'll give it 60 days after that and we'll do something to communicate with your loved one. Because we also have to give them a moment, you know? And sometimes I can't control who's going to talk to me. I try now in social settings to block it because I don't want to know. I'm not interested in that way. It's just very confusing sometimes. So I try not to think about it.
You open yourself up and you're in this state. I'm sure it's overwhelming, but it is just kind of everyone popping in, or how do you read it? Is it more visual? Do you feel it in your body? Is it more of a knowing? Because you did mention your clairs too.
It just depends. Sometimes I'll, like yesterday I was at a Friendsgiving, which I don't want to like give people readings at Friendsgiving. It's like weird, right? That's weird.
Sounds like
It's
fun
kind
to
of
me,
weird.
but yeah, not everyone
Oh
wants
my god! Luckily, the person who I was talking to, they thought it was fun too. But I didn't even know this person. This person came with someone, and they were saying how the person he came with has gotten reading. People who get readings with me become my friends, obviously, because like they invite me to Friendsgiving and I go. So I was at Friendsgiving, and this girl who's gotten readings with me, she just got a promotion, and she's at a new law firm, and she recently got married to somebody from Canada and he's here from and I've seen him like twice, very socially. Like at a barbecue, hi, whatever. Never talked to him about psychic. Like that's like not I'm just here. And yesterday she's like, oh, guess what? Like he's thinking about it, but he wants to know how it works. Like what he's apprehensive because he doesn't know what you're gonna tell him. And before I could like stop myself, like before like I could just stop the words from coming out of my mouth, I was like, well, if you think I'm gonna tell you about the problems you're having with your mother and why you guys don't speak, like of course that's gonna cut. And I just kept going. The guy was like, and I'm like, I go, look, I don't know why I told you that. I told him, I'm very sorry. I don't know what happened. I felt like I got like verbal diarrhea. I told him, and then I couldn't stop. I literally, my husband was laughing because I was like, I feel so bad. And he came up to me and he was like, no, no, no. I feel like I'm fine. And that is why I was going to go to you because of this situation. And I was like, oh, well, there you go. But then I feel more uncomfortable than people. People are like, tell me more. And I'm like, no, I just want to have like a beer and a taco and go home. But it happens like that. I've also gone into places and I'll get a smell and I'll tell people like, oh, it smells like da 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 da. And then they'll be like, oh, it's because of this, this, this. Or like on the investigation we did, I saw people, and then I have to because I see them very clearly. I see them like I'm seeing you. So I have to like take a moment and be like, are you alive? Are you dead? Like what is happening here? I think my least favorite is seeing them.
And do you see it visually, energetically, like more aura, like or like an outline, like a apparition?
It really it really depends because if you get spirits that are very evolved, I will see them more of like the complete visual. Like I could describe them completely to you. If they're spirits that need light, they're a little darker and they'll maybe be like a kind of like a shadow. And then if they're very old spirits, older spirits, or energies that have to do with deities or Risha, I'll see them like orbs, white, red, things like that. But yeah, definitely my least favorite is seeing the full apparition situation. Just because I'm uncomfortable sometimes. I'm like, oh, are they alive? Are they not?
Kind of transitioning into the paranormal when you see something like that is transitioning them into the light or doing something along those lines within your belief system, or is that something that you don't really do?
It is within my belief system. If people come to me to help somebody elevate. If the spirit is suffering, because spirits can suffer, I will help them elevate. It's a whole process. But like, if I'm on a paranormal investigation and I feel like the spirit doesn't have light, I'm really limited in what I can do. Plus, a lot of the places that I've been invited to as the medium on the investigations are places that have spirits that have really attached themselves to the physical building and they want to stay there. So I just try to make them very aware that I'm respectful. I just want them to have light, and I don't want them to cause harm to the people who are still living in the building or home or things like
What is
that.
something that you can offer in that case as a way to kind of make peace with the spirits that may be trapped in a building?
Well, like, like on the investigation we went to, which that house is extremely haunted. I told the homeowner, have a conversation. Have a conversation and be like, look, I'm not going to change things. There's houses that have been around for 100 years, and there's spirits that have been in them for 60, and you come in and you want to demo the kitchen and knock down the living room, and it's very uncomfortable to them. So I just try to tell people, have a conversation. I was just at somebody else's house doing a cleansing. They bought a home. The home is 120 years old. And I went into the house and there's like this beautiful fireplace. And he basically kept the integrity of the home, but updated everything. And I was like, you're going to have to keep talking to the house because what lives here is concerned. And we've been talking and he's like, Thanya, every day before I go demo something, I tell the house, I'm just trying to make you last another 100 years. Just let me keep going. Because he was having so many problems. Like, there was so many things happening to him while he was trying to remodel that house. If they didn't steal the paint from being outside in a very secure area, he would break his toe. It was just a folly effect. So now that he's like done things, had me go to the house, the energy's way better now. You know, I think you just have to be respectful.
And like you said, just being able to kind of have a conversation. And in that case, would it be owning your power to a way respectfully while you're still respecting their presence? It's just creating that relationship.
Our dynamic with spirit and human is very, you would think that we're the ones with the power because we're physical, but we have to really vibrate on a higher level where we're very respectful of spirit, because I think that's where, when we're not respectful, the consequence is negative. So I think definitely not being afraid and owning up to the fact that nothing's going to happen to me as long as we set these boundaries. I'm going to switch the house. You're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And going from there. Of course, like, this is the best case scenario. There's places that are haunted by spirits that lack a lot of light, and then you need a psychic.
Have you been in any situations or places like that that's been like overwhelming with more low vibrational energy?
I went to a house here in a city called Southgate where the lady called me because she was having like a lot of problems. She didn't tell me what it was. She was just saying she had a lot of health problems. And then when I showed up, there was like, it was a living room with a back wall. And I saw symbols on the wall when I walked in. And I said, oh, why do you have that writing on your wall? And I went with someone and they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, don't you see the writing on the wall? And then I started telling her things. And we found out that her husband, who had died, practiced like a weird form of like Wicca, but not Wicca, and was more into like the dark arts. And they had a very bad relationship, and he died in a very tragic way. And he was just causing her all kinds of problems from the beyond because he was a very negative energy. I helped her so that she was trying to sell the house. I helped her so she was able to sell the house and things like that. And even to this day, because she still gets right with me, she's like, Thanya, am I ever going to get rid of him? And I'm like, no, because he's obsessed with you. So what do we have to do is we have to keep him outside of your periphery. We have to keep him outside of your life. Like, if you're in the house, he can be in the yard. So that was really weird because it was so vivid that I really thought that the person I took was like I was like, what are you talking about? Like, don't you see it? And they were like, what the hell are you talking about? And I was like, oh, okay, sounds good. So that was weird. That was very weird.
That reminds me
I've
of the
had
one time on our investigation when you mentioned, and if you want to share this because you can say it better than I can, about the offering when it comes to like dishes in the sink or different ways that spirits can kind of congregate or manifest.
so so when I say if you're going to be with us, if you're going to go to a psychic and they have to be orderly, that also it resonates on a spiritual level for people who are psychics and clairvoyants, to the point where we should not even be leaving dishes in the sink that are dirty, because there's spirits that are looking for an offering. You know, people do offerings to Buddha and they put food. Catholics do offerings to saints. You know, spiritualists do offerings to spirit. So when your life is chaotic and your spiritual life is chaotic, and then spirit sees your sink full of dirty dishes with a little bit of food and a cup with water, they think that's theirs. So I tell people, don't do that. Go to sleep with all your dishes washed all the time. You know, I tell people, if you're, you know, you do like paranormal stuff, never go to bed without showering after a paranormal investigation, because you need something at the minimum to cleanse your energy.
How do you protect yourself or ground after an investigation?
So I'm a little different because I'm a crown santera. I have ceremonies done, but I have different things that I wear on investigations to cut energies. I also I do what's called spiritual baths, which is an after shower rinse. I sell them on my site. I use a lot of Florida water. I make my own Florida water. I use cascarilla. I get readings every 45 days. I do cleansings. You know, I pay someone to cleanse me because I cannot cleanse myself. Where's it going to go? I'm not going to clean myself. Where does it go? It stays with me. So I'm very consistent about my spirituality in that sense.
Are there any grounding techniques that you have to kind of replenish yourself with new energy or just kind of sitting in your own space?
So I usually try to take a day, an afternoon. Like I'm taking after this, I've been going nonstop this month. So I'm taking the rest of the week off. And during that week, I'm just going to sit in front of my altar periodically, meditate, reconnect with what's mine, do some spiritual baths. I like to go to the ocean. I like to reconnect with nature just to ground myself, because I feel like it's so important for us to be in touch with nature so that we're able to take advantage of those things that exist in nature that affect all of us. And I avoid certain things, like I don't go out during a full moon. I don't like to be staring at the moon. I think the moon has a lot of energy, and it's not that it's negative energy, it's just overwhelming. I also have a lot of crystals. I have like a barrier of crystals before my altar. There's a barrier of crystals that goes before my altar. I have a lot of it in my bedroom.
Do you have different altars or do you have like a primary altar that you work with? Is it more geared towards like your ancestors or
So I'll send you a picture later. I have a primary altar I work with that is geared towards my ancestors. That is ancestors slash spirit guides, and that's called a bóveda. And in my home, we have two. We have one that's the primary one, and it's rather large, and it stays up all year. And then I have a smaller one in my back office because I feel better. It's weird. Like once you become spiritual, if I would see me, like I would have been like, no way. But now today I was walking by it and I was like, oh, I have to clean it because it's like 5 cups of water. It's called a bóveda. You'll see a lot of things about bóvedas online. Most of them are wrong. So much so that I'm doing a class on it to show people how to actually set it up. Because the bóveda is a very good tool for anybody. Whether you're a santera, whether you just want to get in touch with your psychic intuition, whether you just want protection, it's very good for healing. It's good for trying to start curing some of those generational curses. It's an excellent tool that everybody can have. It was really, people were really gatekeeping it because they wanted to associate it only with Santeria. But I don't believe that way because it's a spiritual thing and everybody can do it. And everybody should be taught to do it correctly. So I have one inside, one outside. The one inside, when I'm reading people, they're sitting literally at a table that I read, and my Boveda's right next, like a few feet away. So I am a person who always likes to have candles lit for them. My mother, who's also an excellent medium, does not like to light candles. She's like, that's your thing. You always have to have a candle lit. But I like to have a candle lit. And from time to time, we'll put flowers, offerings, things like that. I really see spirit as part of my life. So on Halloween, I bought them a blow up and I put it inside the house next to the altar. My mom was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "I bought them a little witch. It's cute, right?" She's like, "It's like 5 feet tall." I'm like, "I know." Like it's Christmas. They have a tree. Like I'm gonna set up. I set up a tree for them because also on that altar are my grandmother's ashes, my maternal grandmother's ashes. So I kind of feel like I'm doing it for her. So I put a tree. I mean, I don't know if she cares. She wasn't big on Christmas, but whatever. Now in the afterlife, maybe she is. And I've really just incorporated them as part of my life. I don't, if it doesn't sit well with my spirit, I just don't do it.
That's beautiful.
So
So tell
yeah.
me about your podcast, Brujo 101.
Yes, so I have a podcast called Brujo 101, and I have it with Martin Moreno. He's my co-host, or I'm his co-host. And he's best known for being the opener for Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias. He's a comedian. And we met because we were supposed to meet. And he started with getting readings with me. And now he's actually my godchild religiously. He's received things from me. And we started the podcast to kind of dispel some of the negative things that come along with magic. The word brujo in Spanish literally means witch, but it used to be very derogatory. You're a brujo. And on purpose, we called it brujo because we want to take back the name. Like, it's not a bad thing. And we did 101 because it's for beginners. So we talk about everything. He has practiced everything and nothing ever stuck. And now he's in Santeria, my religion, and it's his religion now. And it's just funny. We have very different opinions on things, and we have a lot of interesting guests. We have, you know, you, Tammy, I get paranormal people, I get spiritualists, I get a lot of different people. And we also get people who have nothing to do with spirit talking about spirit. And the funny thing is that everybody has to do with spirit. Even if you say, oh, yeah, we've had comedians come on and they're like, no, I'm not religious. And then we'll start talking and they're like, well, in my house, it used to be haunted and my mom used to clean me with an egg. And so it's just a very, it's not serious. We try not to take ourselves seriously, but in the middle, I do try to weave in some facts and also steer people clear of things that are just not resonating and are scams and things like that, because I just don't like for people to be taken advantage of.
What would you say are some of the biggest red flags or misconceptions that you could share?
Okay, let's see. So in Santeria, I think the biggest misconception is that all we do is kill animals all day, because that has been on the news. The killing of animals is prevalent in Santeria, but if you meet somebody who respects themselves in the religion, we have no right to kill anything. The only person who can kill anything is God. And that's another misconception, that we don't believe in God. Of course we believe in God. God is the only person who knows your birth date and your death date. That's it. So all we do is, if we can soften a situation for someone, we're like a pillow. Like, if you had 5 years to live, through ceremony, we're going to give you another 10. The killing of animals and the sacrifice of animals goes back, Santeria is 4,000 years before Christ. So all the religions were pagan then. And now we still kill animals, but we're not killing dogs and cats, guys. It's usually a chicken, a pigeon, and it's in very extreme cases. Because again, there's a lot of things you can do spiritually. Also, the misconception that all santeros look alike, like that we all have our head wrapped and we're wearing like 10,000 beaded necklaces. I hardly ever look like that. I do wear a head covering when I'm reading, but it's because of the energy. I just think that's like a common misconception, or that we're not educated. That's very weird to me. But yeah, I think that those are the big things. I think that, and that a reading's going to be fear based. Like, I'm going to tell you things to scare you into doing things. And that's the last thing I want to do. I don't want you to be
Yeah,
scared.
how can someone prep for their first reading if they've never had one before? Is there anything that they can kind of keep in mind or go in with?
So I think you definitely have to go in with an open mind, a very open mind, but also be very conscious. And if things don't resonate, be honest. No, that doesn't resonate in a nice way, right? Like if somebody tells you, "Hey, you have a drinking problem," and you're like, "I'm sober," then let the person finish and be like, that doesn't resonate with me because that's not, this is this. And be honest with yourself and with the reader. When people book readings with myself, I don't allow people to drink, do drugs, have sex, or smoke anything for 48 hours because I think your body needs a purification period so that your most natural element of spirit can come forward to speak to me. So, and I don't let them wear the color black because black holds every color. But for spiritual things, it is also very dominating. So it's easier if you wear a lighter color when you come get a reading with me. Um, and don't worry about like recording the person who's reading you. I get a lot of people who are like, "Can I record you on my phone? Can I do this? Can I do that?" No, because one, I don't like to be recorded and then posted. That's happened to me a lot. I don't care in the sense that I know what I said resonated, and that's why they're reposting it. They're kind of trying in a weird way to give me like a compliment, but I feel like it's so personal. And at times when I'm doing readings, spirit really kind of incorporates with me, and it's just very. I don't want it to be out in the world. I want it to be between me and you. And you shouldn't be focused on recording me. You should be focused on listening to what I'm telling you. And I give you a piece of paper and I let you write it down, things that you need to do. But I feel like when people come in and they're very like, "Can I record you? Can I do that?" No. You're focusing on the wrong thing. Like, this isn't a circus trick. Like, let's just take a step back.
Yeah, I think that's important and significant in the way that if it resonates with you in that moment, you're writing it down. So then when you think about it and you let it kind of marinate, you can go back and look at your notes, but it's kind of just those key points, which is
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, you tried to get in touch with a psychic, they kept canceling, their life was like, don't.
and I'm honestly just taking it as a sign. Like I'm not
Yeah.
I knew, I just did it because like I had other people that went to her and yeah, I took it as a sign. So this goes for everyone else listening that, go off of what it feels like the relationship with the psychic, the energy healer. If you feel good about it, great. Stick with it. And if
Yeah.
you don't, then trust it. There's so many other people
Yeah,
out
and
there.
then maybe the sign is you do need a reading, but that's not the person you need a reading from. And the person who you need a reading from is going to come into your orbit. And that's it. And, it's just, I was on a podcast with another spiritualist. I didn't even know the spiritualist. They just had me on. And after that podcast, I got like an influx of readings, right? And then this person told me, that spiritualist that you were on their podcast, they kept my money. I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah." I go, "I don't even know them. I don't work with them. I was just invited by a third party." And they're like, "Yeah." And the funny thing is that I'm kind of glad they kept my money because I met you and it's okay. And I was like, "No, get your money back." Like I felt bad. And they were like, "It was just a conduit." I was like, "Oh, well, that's a good way of seeing it too, I guess." Right. So,
Yeah. These synchronistic connections in different ways.
yes, but there are no coincidences.
And just to wrap it up, are there any tips and tricks, some like home remedies or things that you can come up with for people to integrate into their life, whether it's for protection or for abundance or just really anything?
So, for protection, I am a person who believes a lot in the evil eye. I also believe in the Hamsa a lot. But more so to that, I think you should always wear a piece of jewelry or clothing that people can focus on so they're not focused on you. Like when you see me, I constantly have bracelets on, rings. If I'm out in the wild, I'm constantly wearing a bunch of things because I don't want people to focus on me. I want them to focus on something I'm wearing to take away that energy that they're so hard focused on. So I definitely recommend all that. Coral is very good. If you could get your hands on some red coral, that's a very powerful protection you can wear. Obsidian is very good. Onyx is very good. Blue lapis, anything like that that's going to really call attention. Or if you're just a person who likes the evil eye, like I like the evil eye, I'll wear a ring with the evil eye. I'll wear a bunch of things. You know, like today I have on an onyx, like a huge onyx ring. Just so when people are talking to me, their attention is diverted somewhere else. I believe in that a lot. I also believe in saging your home. I believe that sage is a very powerful medicine. I know that people say a lot of things about sage, but saging your home is a very basic way to cleanse your home. And you go from the back of your house to the front all the time. And you don't blow on the sage. I see people with sage and they're like, don't do that. You just get the sage and go like this, and the wind will make it burn. Start at the back of your house and then walk it all the way to the front of your house. Place it on a plate and it'll turn off by itself. Don't turn it off. That's also a very good thing to do.
Should you walk in a certain direction or have like the windows or doors open or anything like that?
So I like the smell of sage. So really, even if like right now it's a little colder, so in the morning I'll just leave the window. I'll open one window and I'll leave the rest closed because I do walk the sage out of my house and put it so that it smolders. It doesn't matter which way you walk, but what matters is that you go from the back of your house to the front of your house and set your intention. These things you have to be very intentional. I'm cleansing my house to get rid of bad energy, bring in good energy, bring in abundance, things like
This is
that.
something that you can just say out loud.
Yeah, you can say it out loud. You can say it out loud. You have to get comfortable within yourself and within your own spirit because you really, it sounds very corny, but you have to find your own magic. And my magic is not going to be your magic. We can do the same things, but we're going to add different things to it, you know?
Our own twist on it.
Yeah, for sure.
You also make jewelry and sell jewelry and different products online too.
I do. I'm not busy enough. So I have a store called Ashe Imports, and it specializes in Hamsa, evil eye jewelry, a lot of like saint inspired jewelry, different saints like Saint Jude, who's the patron saint of lost causes, Saint Benedict for curses. I make my own sage. I do my own like Florida water. So I just got tired of seeing like really cheaply done things. And I was like, I could do this better and it could still be affordable. So I'm kind of like
They're
that.
really
But yeah.
beautiful too. I love all the
Thank
colors.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Tanya, what is your website or how can people find you if they want to book a reading or check out your products?
So my store is called Ashe Imports, ASHE Imports. And then I'm on Instagram under Tanya, THANYA underscore Ashe, ASHE. I never message you for a reading, so you'll know it's me if I'm not messaging you, telling you that Sweet Spirit spoke to me. I don't speak like that. You can also follow my podcast, Brujo 101, and message me through there. I'm not really on TikTok a lot. I am very blessed that I have a lot of readings, so social media kind of takes a back seat to my stuff. I get a lot of referrals, word of mouth stuff. But I'm very good at responding. If you message me, I respond to you right away. If you have questions, I love to educate people about different things of spiritualism. And if I can help, I will help you. It's not a problem. I'm doing a Boveda class. I'm going to send you the info so you can
Please.
come. I'm doing a class on how to set up your own altar in your home. I'm doing it in Torrance, January 11th. It's going to be awesome because I'm really going to talk about the history of altars, how to use them, how to set them up, and what they're good for. It's going to be an Eventbrite, so I'm going to post a link. It's going to be great, and I'll send it to you.
I'd
Yeah,
love
you should
to.
come.
Well, thank you
Awesome.
so much, Tanya.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yay, perfect. So I think I just hit stop here, but
Hit
I think
stop,
we just
but we have to
okay,
stay.
perfect. I'm just gonna hit stop.